Ready to go? Okay. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Springfield City Council. I'm Melvin Edwards. I'll be chairing the meeting tonight. Tonight is time for a public speak out. I believe we have 4 names that have already registered to speak tonight. Is there a Duncan DeVoe? Sir, could you approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, please? You'll be given 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Duncan Davio. I'm an emergency medicine physician assistant at Mercy Hospital. Yes, sir. Thank you. So my name is Duncan Davio. I'm an emergency medicine physician assistant. I work at Mercy Medical Center. I'm actually a resident of Chicopee, not of Springfield. Just going to pull up my remarks. I apologize. In addition to being a PA at Mercy Medical Center, I am also the immediate past president of the Massachusetts Association of PAs. I came here to talk about a growing problem within our community, and that's the lack of access to primary care. For many years, our healthcare system has been failing. Wait times seem to increase, healthcare gets more expensive, and patients continue to get sicker. For many patients, their only lifeline is the emergency department. The ER is a place where they can get access to care without an appointment. They can receive diagnostics, including labs and imaging, without insurance authorization. And they can gain a peace of mind about their health concerns without having to navigate the labyrinth of complexity that has become our healthcare system. My colleagues and I take pride in the confidence and trust that our community places in us to solve their ongoing issues as they navigate an increasingly fragmented and complex healthcare system. However, my colleagues and I are becoming increasingly overwhelmed as patients must make tough decisions to come to the ER, as this is their only recourse as the system continues to erect barriers for them. Many of us would agree that if our roof were leaking, it wouldn't make sense to call a plumber. Because while they do fix leaks, roofing is not their area of expertise. The same can be said of emergency departments. We're great at taking care of heart attacks, strokes, broken bones, sepsis, and other emergency and life-threatening conditions. But we are not the end-all, be-all of our healthcare system. Preventing illness, managing chronic disease, performing cancer screenings, and helping work with patients to lead and shape healthier lives is the bread and butter of our primary healthcare system. But because of a system that is controlled by insurance companies who exist solely to make money, whether or not they claim to be nonprofit, and because of a system of hospitals that are increasingly run like businesses, we are in a state of crisis. I worked through the COVID-19 pandemic as a frontline healthcare provider, and while there was the fear of the unknown of what was to come, we were empowered by our solidarity and community support, which served as an antidote to our ongoing anxieties about the uncertain future. We are 4 years from the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, and I'll let you in on a secret. I'm actually terrified for the first time in my career. I am terrified by our sheer volume of patients entering our emergency departments every day, who seem sicker and sicker all the time. I'm terrified by the sheer number of healthcare workers who are leaving the healthcare workforce. And because of a system that lets insurance companies who continually post record-breaking profits call all the shots. And I am tired of the wait times. Mercy Medical Center frequently is hitting 21-hour waits. And this is the only way our patients access care. I am also terrified in part for our patients and the inadequate access of care that they get. Last year, I saw a woman who was in her late 40s. She had 3 kids. One was about to graduate college and 2 were in high school. She had been having abdominal pain for the last few weeks, okay? She initially dismissed it as many busy working individual parents would do, but when it wouldn't go away, she reached out to her primary care provider. She got an appointment 6 months down the road. That was the soonest that they could see her. Her pain continued. And the week before her oldest child's graduation, she couldn't wait anymore. So she ended up at our emergency department. And I, as her treating provider, ordered her an ultrasound, which demonstrated that she had a pelvic mass, likely consistent with ovarian cancer. As an emergency department provider, my treating relationship with this patient has ended. so I have no idea how she's doing at this time. As a side note, ovarian cancer tends to be very aggressive, and most patients tend to succumb to the. I know, I'm sorry, sir. I'll be super quick. All right.
you.
Most patients tend to succumb to it. She didn't die. I don't think she died of the ovarian cancer, though. She died of an inadequate healthcare system. Members of City Council, there's multiple stories. I could talk about this for hours. It's no surprise that our healthcare providers have been exiting the workforce in record numbers. Mass Medical Society indicates that 1 in 4 physicians plans on leaving the healthcare workforce within the next 2 years, and this crisis is only going to get worse. They say the only thing stronger than fear is hope, and I see hope on the horizon. My organization, the Massachusetts Association of PAs, along with the Mass Academy of Family Physicians and Mass Medical Society, are fighting to introduce legislation in the State House called Primary Care for You. This bill would double our investment in primary health care. It would remove copays so that way patients can access health care. And it would eliminate social equities, okay? I really hope that we can get City Council to support this because this is a growing issue within our communities. Our patients in our community deserves better. They deserve access to affordable and timely health care. As a provider in Mercy Medical Center, I think we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Can we ask a question or no?
Sir, Councilor Walsh?
I think this issue, lack of access, it should be a much broader meeting, and I would like to see this referred to the Public Health Committee, because I think all of us know about emergency rooms and waiting and a lot of the issues we've been discussing in subcommittees. I think there needs to be a much broader meeting so the entire council can hear you and help you promote your issue.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. Deacon, for your testimony. Councilor Walsh, I think that I concur with you, ma'am, that we need to have a broader conversation on this. And it's my intent, and I have already started with some preliminary conversations to see if we can get this into the Health and Human Services Committee to be heard, and to what is my hope that this wise and humble body will support this, because we have 2 hospitals here, Bayston Medical Center and Mercy Medical Center, and they are completely overwhelmed. Mr. Duncan say, the waiting hours, it's ridiculous. It's nothing to wait 12, 16 hours, and it's something that we need to address. And so, but we need help. We need help from the state. And so, Mr. Duncan, thank you, sir, for bringing this up to light. And I will be following up with the chair of the Health and Human Services on this matter. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Delgado.
I sympathize and empathize with what you guys are going through in your field. I have folks in my family, and I have good friends who are in the healthcare field, who are PAs, nurses, and who've also gone through COVID. So thank you so much for, obviously, your continued commitment to the industry, because we need dedicated folks like yourself in there. So I thank you for that. And then, I echo my colleagues' statements of, making sure that we understand more about what's going on, particularly this. It seems like every industry, we're losing people, but this is an industry that, we really can't afford to. So thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you, Councilor Delgado. Yes, please. Before you leave, if you could just let the clerk know your information, and then they will reach out to you to schedule an invitation to the Health and Human Services Committee. Thank you. I believe the next gentleman is virtual. Is there Dr. Wayne Altman?
Good evening.
Dr. Altman, you will have 3 minutes. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you so much.
I believe you might be. Are you muted?
I don't think so. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, Brian, you can hear me.
He's speaking, can't hear him.
Brian, can you speak and see if they can hear you?
Can you hear me, everyone?
I can hear you, Brian, but
Th-
but I
Thank
can't
you.
hear the gentleman, Dr. Altman.
Brian,
Okay,
Brian, can you tell them
thank
that
you.
you can hear me, but they can't hear me, which is strange.
Yes, yes, I hear him, but the council can't hear him in
That's Brian.
person.
Okay, they are working on it.
What, Brian? Brian, you want to offer to go next while they're working on it?
No, I'm a city councilor,
Oh,
so
I'm sorry.
I'm waiting for what you have to say.
Oh, that's nice of you.
You're welcome, Doctor.
I beg everyone's patience. Focus Springfield is working on it right as we speak.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Dr. Altman, if you can hear us, can you just raise your hand up? Could you wave your hand if you can hear us? Okay, you can hear us. If for the sake of, if it's just of time, we still can't hear you, so I beg your patience. But if you can hear us, I'm going to move on to the in-person, Dr. Mindy Garvin. And as soon as we get to technical difficulties, we'll come back to you, Dr. Altman. Dr. Garvin, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, yes, my name is Mindy Garvin, Dr. Mindy Garvin. I live in Windsor, Connecticut, originally from Holyoke, Mass. I was actually born at Bay State, so I'm original local, just coming back to the area for the first time in a long time.
Well, you have 3 minutes to address the council.
Perfect, thank you. I'm here just to support my colleague Duncan and his bill that he's bringing forward today. I work as a nocturnist in the emergency department at Mercy, so I only work nights, and I have the privilege of caring for some of the most vulnerable populations in the city and in the surrounding area at their most vulnerable times in their lives. And it's, like I said, a privilege. It's something that I take very seriously and I love doing. Every day that I've worked since I graduated from residency about 4 years ago, right in the midst of the beginning of COVID-19, is becoming increasingly just more challenging as far as caring for people on a daily basis and getting to see the patients that come through our doors. It's not uncommon for there to be a 36-hour wait time in Springfield to see a physician in the emergency department, which is obviously not sustainable, right? Think about when you're in an emergency, and every patient that walks in that door feels that their medical emergency is an emergency. Whether it is truly an emergency or not, let's face it, probably about 10% of the people that walk through the door are truly having a medical emergency that needs to be taken care of right then and there in an emergent situation. But the rest of the 90% of the patients feel like their emergency is an emergency. And it's not just the frustration of not being able to see the patients we want to see and getting patients through the throughput through the emergency department. It causes moral injury to providers like Duncan and myself to not be able to have the tools to care for our patients because of these long wait times. And as he described earlier, it is a giant barrier that these patients can't be seen by their primary care doctors regularly. Most of the time I see patients, they're struggling to even get in to see anybody, and so we're sort of the last resort, and we are the safety net, and that's kind of why I went into emergency in medicine to begin with, because I wanted to be able to see any patient for any reason at any time, no matter what. And the way the state of the union is right now, and this is an epidemic in this country, this isn't just Springfield, this is the entire country. Because I've trained in a lot of different places. I just left East Tennessee, which is, rural East Tennessee, rural Appalachia. It's a poverty of a different kind down there. But same idea. They're having extremely long wait times, just like we are here in Springfield. And if we don't do something about this, we're going to come to a breaking point. So, just the other day, we had a patient who had been waiting for hours, decided to leave the emergency department because they couldn't wait any longer, and they died in the parking lot. They died in the parking lot. And whether or not they would have passed away in the hospital, I can't say. I didn't see this patient because I was busy taking care of the 1,000 other patients that were also being seen in the emergency department. So it's going to be a point where we have to look at this. We have to deal with this. And I strongly support this bill to at least give patients an outlet to see someone and maybe get the kind of care that they deserve on a daily basis. And again, this is the most vulnerable patients that we see. They need this bill so that they have access to care. It's not you and I that can go to see a doctor and pay for it out of pocket at any time. It's the patients that don't have that access, and we're their only outlet. So I encourage you to look over the bill, and I strongly support it.
Thank you, Dr. Garvin. And once again, your invitation will be extended to attend the future scheduled meeting with Councilor Davila and his team. Is Dr. Altman available now?
Yes.
Dr. Altman, can we hear you now? Thank you, Councilor. Dr. Altman, please beg your patience. I think they're still working on some technical issues, so I'm going to now
Street, Springfield, Mass. I'm here today to address the City Council and the community on solutions for gun violence here in the city of Springfield. So often we are reactive rather than proactive when it comes to gun violence. Last year we had a surge in gun violence and then we reacted. There was a shooting in the schools, now we're reacting. And it doesn't seem like solutions were being provided. So I have some solutions for gun violence for our city. We need to uplift neighborhoods that have experienced deep discrimination in areas of criminal justice, the legal system, employment, housing, education, and healthcare. These are some real-time solutions that would make an immediate impact on gun violence that we are dealing with in our city. Community safety, addressing the self-esteem of young people, especially in communities of colors and those that are involved in gun and gang violence, through mental health programs, leadership development, mentorship, and personal accountability. And so some of the things I'm going to address is to address the school-to-prison pipeline, fully invest in after-school programs, go into the jails and prisons and establish a peace treaty. There are no required readings in the school system of the autobiography of Malcolm X. There's no required readings of Patrice Lumumba. There's no required readings of Africans who have contributed positive to the world. How do you think our young people are impacted when they have no positive images that can uplift their self-esteem? Also, we would like to address the violence in this way. As soon as a young person is arrested for gun violence, there should be credible messengers, mental health experts at Pearl Street. When they leave from Pearl Street to go to 50 State Street, those same credible messengers and mental health experts should be in the court system with them. And then if they go to Ludlow, awaiting trial, the same reality should be present. And then we can deal with a peace treaty. Unfortunately, if you're not talking to the shooters, if you're not talking to the drug dealers, if you're not in prison, everything else that we're doing is an exercise in futility. So we have personal people with lived experiences who are in the streets trying to develop a peace treaty as we're talking. However, with resources not being funded to the viable institutions in our community, those people who are mostly impacted with gun violence will continue. Another thing, to address, I have a theme called the prison to work pipeline, because we know the school to prison pipeline impacts our young people. So last year, Ludlow's budget was $95 million. The city council and the mayor and others should ask the sheriff, would he be willing to take some of that funding, hire licensed electricians, hire licensed plumbers, carpenters, and then teach the young men and women in prison a skill. Have the unions, open up the unions so that people can have affordable jobs with living wages so they wouldn't have to be in gun violence. One of the things that we have to remember is this, that people that are in gun violence and are shooting guns, they're doing this because it's belly politics. They're selling drugs. A part of the tools for selling drugs is a gun. The purpose of the gun is to protect themselves in the areas in which they live in. If we're not dealing with living wage jobs, if we're not dealing with mental health, if we're not in the prisons addressing these issues, gun violence will continue. I had a talk with Senator Adam Gomez today, and I asked him, if you locked up every repeat offender that has a gun, will gun violence decrease? He said no. And the reason why is we're not dealing with the root causes that has people shooting the guns. And unless we address this as an epidemic from a health perspective, a mental health perspective, it will continue. So thank you. I just thank you for your time. I have the solutions. If you would like to get with us, my email is on the back of it. We really, really have viable people in our community. If given the proper chance, we can help decrease gun violence in our city. Thank you very much.
I believe Mr. Altman, are we prepared for, I'm sorry, Dr. Wayne Altman, is he available still? Could you say something? Focus Spring. Can my colleagues on Focus at home, can you guys hear us? Or Brian, could you say something so I know whether we can hear you? Councilor Santinello? My apologies. Apparently, we continue to have technical difficulties.
Mr. Vice President.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I wanted to thank you, Mr. Charles Stokes, for bringing this to our attention. And I like solutions and I like prevention, right? So being proactive, I think, is something that we need to do. And I would like to ask the chair of the Public Safety Committee to bring this topic to one of our meetings so that we could maybe entertain some more conversation about this and really look at solutions.
Thank you. Once again, I beg everybody's patience. Apparently, we're having some technical difficulties with our people who are virtual, which includes at least one counselor. or at least, or a couple, yes. I believe right now we have two, including Dr. Altman, who is one part of the speaker. And
But if we can't hear them,
I'm not sure if they can hear yet. So. Dr. Altman, if you can hear us, my apologies. I'm going to take a short recess until they can figure out technical difficulties, and then we will convene this council meeting starting with Dr. Altman's comments and then get into the business. So, beg everyone's patience. Thank you.
One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. 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 One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. One, two. Oh,
Hey, Melvin, are you all set?
Just being. Everybody? Everybody, I'm getting feedback here. We had some technical difficulties a little earlier, so unfortunately, one of the Dr. Altman was here virtually to speak, and he was unable to speak. So I beg everybody's patience just for a few minutes as we give Dr. Altman a chance to speak. Dr. Altman, are you still here? He left. Okay. Thank you. It is now 7:07. Without objection, I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Springfield City Council today. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Counselor Walsh. Present. Counselor Allen.
Present.
Present. Counselor Delgado.
Present.
Present. Counselor Click Bruce.
Present.
Present. Counselor Govan.
Present.
Present. Counselor Brown.
Present.
Present. Counselor Davila.
Present.
Present. Counselor Curran. Absent. Counselor Santinello. Absent. Counselor Fenton. Absent. Counselor Whitfield. Absent. Counselor Perez.
Present.
Present. Counselor Edwards.
Present. Can our councilors and our guests please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm okay. That's better. Okay. Madam Clerk, can we call the first item, please?
First item on the agenda is a grant for the EOHHS Youth Homelessness Grant increase in the amount of $1,043,402. No match required.
Is there someone to speak on this item?
Jerry McCafferty spoke in the Finance Committee meeting, but she was unable to speak at the actual council meeting. So I will try to reiterate everything she said. This is a grant that we've been receiving since FY19. It is a grant that covers Hampden County and the continuum of care, and this is grant funding for the Homeless Youth Program. It's for homeless youth between the ages of 18 and 24 that have aged out of foster care, and we work with DCF to assist these kids once they've aged out and they're homeless. So we have two organizations that we fund through this grant, Gandara Center and the Center for Human Development. And what we do is these grants are used to support the kids for support services. There's rental rehab, rental assistance, rental rehousing, and they give them rent support up to 2 years, and they're flex funds. They'll pay for anything the kids need. They pay for the furniture, the rent, They pay if they have a job and they have a car that breaks down, they'll give them the money to fix their car. It's all support services and anything they can do to support these kids until they're able to become, working and have a house and have a home. And as I said, we have been given this grant since fiscal 19. This increase is an increase to the FY24 funding for $66,813, and that it also includes our FY25 funding of $976,589.
Any questions, comments from the council? Okay. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
On approval of the grant, Counselor Walsh. Yes. Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click-Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran. Absent, Counselor Santinello. Absent, Counselor Fenton. Absent, Counselor Whitfield. Absent, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes, motion carries. The grant is accepted.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Would you like to give a report of the Finance Committee if you want?
Oh, my apologies.
No big deal. Just,
Yes, actually, I'd also like to recognize Senator Adam Gomez. Actually, could somebody, I'm hearing an echo here. Is that me? Or hello? Should I still be hearing it? Like, listen, I'm trying to talk now. You see what I'm saying? Is this better? Not really. Okay. You guys are hearing me okay, right? I'll manage then. I'm getting an echo.
There was before, yeah.
Testing? Yep, there we go. Madam Clerk, also, as I was saying, I would like to recognize our State Senator Adam Gomez is here. And Madam Clerk, can you recognize Councilor Santinello, please?
Counselor Santinello.
Present.
Present.
Reports of committee, Councilor Allen.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met tonight at 5:30, and there were 4 of the items we're going to talk about tonight were on the Finance Committee agenda. One was the one we just talked about. All 4 items were passed unanimously by the Finance Committee, which is Councilor Edwards, who's serving as our president tonight, Councilor Delgado, and myself. So we also approved the Bikeway Walkway Grant that's coming up next, and the bond authorization, which Mr. Garvey will talk about, and also, hold on, the fourth one was the easements, the permanent and temporary easements for St. James Avenue and Tapley Street. So we approved them, but we weren't sure, nobody in the meeting was sure whether we're going to have a roundabout there or not, so we're hoping that we'll hear a definite answer tonight at the meeting as to what the exact plan is there. But all 4 of the financial items were approved in the committee meeting. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Allen, any other reports of committee? Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, the general government meeting met today, and present were Councilor Walsh and Councilor Allen, myself, Parks Director Patrick Sullivan, and the Forester Alex Sherman. And we had the second meeting regarding the tree ordinance, which is here on the agenda, which we are going to be passing last passage, right, Madam Clerk, I believe? Yes. And so we spoke, sir, about, there's a new definition regarding climate change, which is going to be inserted, and it's going to be a way through an amendment on 368-2 on the ordinance. And it seems to me that this ordinance, it got a favorable vote in the committee today. and we will speak more details on this ordinance when it comes up. But the General Government Committee did send it to the chambers to be voted on passed today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Any other reports of committee? Hearing none, entertain a motion to accept reports of committee.
So moved.
Motion's been made and second. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll on acceptance of the committee reports?
On acceptance of the reports, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran. Absent, Counselor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton. Absent, Counselor Whitfield. Absent, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes. Motion carries. Yes. Order carries. We'd like to recognize our guest tonight, also Senator John Velas, I believe, is here. Welcome to our chamber. And Madam Clerk, could you call the next item, item number 2?
Item number 2 is for Parks DCR Connecticut River Bikeway Walkway Grant, no match required, in the amount of $75,000.
Good evening, Pete Krupsak from Parks and Buildings. The State Department of Conservation and Recreation has awarded the city a grant in the amount of $75,000 for improvement, lighting and security improvements to the Connecticut River Bikeway Walkway. As the clerk mentioned, there's no match required from the city. However, it's a reimbursable grant, which means the city, we pay for the work firsthand, and then once we provide documentation that the work was done appropriately, we are reimbursed by the state. Our plans are to use this money for security lighting improvements at Riverfront Park and North Riverfront Park. Again, lighting and probably cameras, call boxes. We'll work closely with Springfield PD to make sure that whatever cameras we put up are in the right locations and that they are monitored by the police department.
Any questions from the council?
Yeah, I have
Hearing
a
no
quick
questions,
question.
Madam
I
Clerk,
have a
can you call
question.
the roll on
I have a question.
the grant? My apologies, Councilor Santinello.
Yeah, Peter, this is going to be, this lighting that you're talking about in the cameras, is this going to be just for the bikeway, or is this going to be for the entire park?
Okay. Councilor Santinello, can you start again, please?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. The question is to Peter Krupchak. Peter, are these cameras and lighting, are they just going to be is it going to be for the entire park?
Our plan would be, again, to concentrate on Riverfront Park and North Riverfront Park.
Okay.
As far as the money would go, we'll put as many cameras as we can afford.
Okay. And Peter, right now, how many cameras, what do we have, like 30 cameras across the city?
In various locations, we have a number of cameras for illegal dumping. We have trail cameras. My guess is we're up to about 20, 25 cameras just for illegal dumping purposes.
And who monitors those, Peter? Who monitors those cameras, Peter?
Our environmental specialist out of the Springfield Parks Division.
Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
Once again, any other questions?
Mr. Vice President.
Councilor Gavon. Sorry.
No worries. Not a question necessarily, just kind of like a commendation to Peter Krupchak, who has been doing great work in the Parks Department, and specifically in my neighborhood in Indian Orchard. I have to highlight that. But I'm really excited that this is happening on the riverfront, and I look forward to having it expand all over the city. Thank you, Peter.
Appreciate your comments, Councilor.
Madam Clerk, if there's no other questions, Madam Clerk, can you call for the vote on the grant, acceptance of the grant, please?
On acceptance of the grant, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran, absent. Counselor Santinello?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton, absent. Counselor Whitfield, absent. Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards?
Yes. The vote is sufficient. The grant is accepted. Madam Clerk, can you read the next item?
The next
number
item
3.
on the agenda is for a bond authorization for FY24 for the MSBA projects in the amount of $3,883,905.
Council, this is a bond order, so it's going to require a 2/3 vote or majority, a minimum of 9 votes for passage. Mr. Garvey, you have the floor.
Thank you, councilors. Peter Garvey, Director of Capital Asset Construction. This bond order is for the construction for the cost of new boilers at Rebecca Johnson and Milton Bradley schools. It's $3,883,905. It's broken out into 2 projects. Milton Bradley School is $2,171,702, and Rebecca Johnson is $1,712,203. So again, it's for the replacement of the boilers. It's 80% reimbursement from the MSBA, 80% of eligible cost from the MSBA.
Thank you, Mr. Garvey. Any questions from the council? Councilor Allen?
Yeah, I just,
Councilor-
Thanks, Mr. President. Pete, something I meant to ask you in committee, I'll ask you now. What is the timing on getting this work done?
This summer.
This summer?
Yep, both boilers will be done this summer.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Brown?
Yes, Pete. I understand that it's a need as far as the boilers, but numerous of times as far as teachers and students and principals and just regular constituents, what's going on with the actual heat, like the ACs? I know one time we actually had to cancel school because of a high heat index. Are we looking to address providing, because I know that some people said they wanted to be able to have little AC units and things like that, and they weren't allowed to do so. Are we going to do anything proactively to address the actual heat in the actual schools that aren't able to sustain any cool air within them? Because a lot of the elementary school kids are tortured. I mean, it's throughout, it's a plague throughout our school system.
Facilities right now is doing some ESCO projects to enhance the comfort in the schools. So that's ongoing right now. I know it's about a $30 million project that they're in the middle of. And I think it's phase 1. I think there's going to be multiple phases in that. So there are 60, I think there's around 60 school buildings. So they're trying to get to them right now.
Thank you. Thank you. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you, Mr.
Any other-
President.
Councilor Davila?
Thank you, Mr. President. Pete, absolutely, this is something that is needed to protect the children. But doing my due diligence and asking the questions, do we have the Madame Caffo still here? Just a quick question to the new Caffo. And my apologies, I can't look at you while talking to you, this silly stuff. Just out of your curiosity, where are we with the bond capacity right now?
This isn't actually a new bond, Counselor. This is increasing a bond. The original bond was already passed for $2.8 million. So this is just correcting the amounts. It's going from 2.8 to 3.8.
So we're raising about $1 million, so that really won't change the needle much in terms of capacity. You say the bond already passed, right? The 2.8?
The original bond passed in November of '23 for $2.8 million. This is increasing it once we have the additional costs associated with it. So this is just getting the council's permission to increase it.
Right. What I'm trying to get at, that we could still do this and still be okay with the new, I believe, Herena School, which I believe down in North End, which will be coming up. The 2 schools that are going to be built recently, I think there's going to be bonds for that too, right? You follow me?
I'm sorry, Counselor, I couldn't understand what you were saying.
Yeah, the echo, it's getting us. So now I want to make sure, I'm just not doing my due diligence. We have more projects coming down the pipeline for schools, and I just want to make sure that if we increase these, we're going to be okay for those projects that are still in the pipeline to go through.
Yes, we have bonding capacity to cover this.
The bond capacity, yeah, that's what I'm
Yes.
getting at. Okay. And thank you, Mr. President, just doing my due diligence. Thank you, Madam Caffo.
Thank you. Any other councilors have any questions? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll on passage of the bond?
On authorization of the bond, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown. Yes. Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran. Absent, Counselor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton. Absent, Counselor Whitfield. Absent, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes. The vote is sufficient. The bond passes. Madam Clerk, can you call the question, the next item, which is item number 4?
Item number 4 is for an ordinance amending Chapter 268, Trees.
Councilor Davila?
Thank you, Mr. President. This item, as I mentioned earlier during the committee report, we met today and the General Government Committee voted to send this to the full chambers. Do we have either Patrick Sullivan or Alex Sherman on the line, Mr. President? Oh, they're here? Oh, hello, Alex. I didn't see you there. Alex, I'm going to turn it over to you in a sec, but please allow me to tell my beloved colleagues that, as I mentioned in the General Government Committee, we have a new definition regarding climate change. Madam Clerk, did you get that amendment for the definition?
Yes, and I believe all the counselors have a copy.
They do. Okay, very well. We're going to be reading that into the record shortly, Mr. President. Alex, you probably will do a better job at just giving the highlights on this. So through the chair, if Alex could give the points.
Alex, could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Alex Sherman, City Forester, 78 Wexford Street.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Davila, please continue.
Yes, if Alex could give the points, the echo is, yes, I understand. Yes, if we could have Alex present the ordinance and the main points.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you for having me here today and considering this important tree protection ordinance. So since I was here last, there was one small change, as Councilor Davila has pointed out. We did, in the first committee meeting, a resident requested that we add a definition for climate mitigation. So we added that definition to the previous draft. Other than that, there was no changes from what was presented here at the first meeting last month. But just to sum up what this ordinance does, it doesn't change much on how we've been operating and how we operate in the Forestry Division, but it really does solidify all the rules and regulations surrounding public trees and significant trees in a ordinance format that can be understood by all parties who may be interacting with city trees. It provides protections for our public trees. It outlines clear guidelines and procedures for working around and on public trees. It maintains the existing protection for significant trees. So we made very little change to the original significant tree ordinance, other than we did add a violation fee for tree companies or others who may violate the significant tree ordinance. So we gave it a little bit of teeth so that it is now more enforceable. And it also provides some guidelines for excavation near public shade trees. So our utility contractors and others working around city trees are aware of how they can best perform their work while having the best outcome for the tree, especially when they're digging near the root system. It establishes clear guidelines for obtaining permits to work on city trees, so for tree trimming, tree removal permitting, tree planting, and stump grinding permits. It does provide tree removal mitigation so that if a healthy public shade tree does need to be removed for development or for some other purpose, the city can recoup some of the value of that public tree in that process. It offers guidelines for managing private trees that may be impacting the public way. So if there's a tree originating on private property that may be threatening people using the sidewalk or roadways, it gives the Forestry Division a remedy to make the public way safe. It clearly establishes the fines for Chapter 87 violations, which is the Mass General law that governs public shade trees. And as I said earlier, it clearly establishes the significant tree fine, and both of those fines are set at $500 per occurrence.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Council Walsh, please.
Well, Mr. President, I have to admit a very personal interest in this amendment that is before us, because if all of you look at this article that I left on your desks, I think we should give credit to the two counselors in the 70s who wanted to protect trees, and who were they?
Well, I know Dan Walsh was one.
Danny Walsh and Councilor Leonard Collmore filed the ordinance protecting trees that were significant or 75 years of age. So I'm really pleased that you're following up on Danny's original idea. You're still protecting the trees, and I'm definitely going to support this. And I want to thank you, Alex, for your research and sharing this article with me and my family so we don't forget Danny's legacy.
You're very welcome, and we're glad to continue that legacy of protecting trees in Springfield.
Now, back in 1970, there were also two other things on the agenda, and the council president would like this. It was an ordinance requiring city employees to live in the city, and the other one was an ordinance prohibiting drinking on public streets and sidewalks. So I don't know if that's still being followed, but I think the other two are.
I'll stick to the trees.
Okay. Yes to this.
Councilor Govan.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I'm really glad that this is happening. And I'm hoping that we can continue in this vein. I want to thank Alex for continuing to work on this tree ordinance, and this is a good start to the public tree ordinance. And I would like to thank Councilor Walsh for her husband's interest in trees in 1976, from what I read in the article. And I would invite you all, I have the Lorax. It's a Dr. Seuss book. It's a movie, too. You should watch the movie. It's so cute. But the book, in 1971, is when Dr. Seuss published it. And I just want to read one excerpt from it. And this is the Lorax that protects the trees. He said that because the Onceler knocked down all the trees, he had to kick out the barbaloots. So he snapped, "I'm the Lorax who speaks for the trees, which you seem to be chopping as fast as you please. But I'm also in charge of the brown barbaloots who played in the shade in their barbaloot suits and happily lived eating truffaloo fruits. Now, thanks to your hacking my trees to the ground, there's not enough truffaloo fruit to go around. And my poor barbaloots are all getting the crummies because they have gas and no food in their tummies." I don't want that to happen in Springfield. The last passage I'm going to read is after the Onceler knocked down all the trees and he made all his money, he was very greedy. He understood what the Lorax was working towards. And the last thing he says, "But now," says the Onceler, "now that you're here, the word of the Lorax seems perfectly clear. Unless someone like you Alex Sherman, Daniel Wash, us. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. So thank you.
Thank you.
More to come on this.
Very nicely done.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Are there any other questions? Councilor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. Thanks, Alex, for met with you a couple or three times on this before. There's an organization called SCANS, which everybody should know about. It stands for Springfield Conservation and Nature Stewardship. And I was involved in getting it started a couple of years ago, and it's an organization run by Amy Loisel and a bunch of other people that you've probably heard of, Ellen Morehouse and Colleen Moynihan and Pat Carney and some people, mostly Ward 7 people. But it should be known by everybody that it's an environmental group in Springfield. And all are welcome to join it. It meets on the third Thursday of every month, and I'm happy to tell you a little bit more about it. I'm not really involved. I helped getting it started. And then I got Mike to do some pro bono legal work to get it started. And it should be over time an asset. They're trying to find their place in challenging things or going along with things, et cetera. But bottom line is we have a group of with a 501c3 status that is working on this and is interested in this. And so in nature and just what it says, conservation and nature stewardship. So I just want to put in a plug for them. I'm involved with them, but I'm not involved in running the organization or anything. I do go to them usually to the monthly meeting. And one of the other things they've been challenging a little bit that has begun to be a topic is with subdivisions. Questions that there's 3 major subdivisions being discussed in Ward 7. All of them have problems with traffic. All of them have a problem with water. And the 3 of them are, 2 of them have not gone forward. 1 just got a planning board approval. But these issues keep coming up. Some of the same issues keep coming up. So we're going to have a meeting, not really a council meeting, but we're going to have a meeting of some of the issues that keep coming up with subdivisions. It's going to be in April. I'm going to run the meeting and have Phil Dromey talk about the rules for subdivisions and things like that. So that's one of the next challenges in that arena. I just wanted to let everybody know about that. Meeting is tentatively scheduled for April 9th. The other thing I want to say is SCANS, while they can not agree with everything, sometimes their heart's in the right place, and they really believe in not clear cutting, not preserving trees, et cetera. And the only thing I would say is that where I live on Newton Road, which is off of Plumtree Road, and I've lived there 50 years, and the number of oak trees that are older than the houses on the street is significant. So the developers at that time, or at least that developer, did not clear cut. He built the house around the trees staying there. And it's been a benefit to me and my family that whole time. The street doesn't look like a new development street. It looks like an established street, which with, older trees, big, large oak trees still there. We always had the most leaves of any street in the city. But anyway, I just want to say that can be done. The neighborhood I'm in, that was done. So thanks for acknowledging that, Alex, and for your advocacy for trees in the city. It's so critical. SCAN's main mission is against climate change. And one of the things that works against climate change is trees. Trees are fighting. They are like our soldiers against climate change. I'll give you one example. On my street, where the trees were preserved and the tornado barely touched my street, compared to Pat Sullivan's street, where he lives off of Roosevelt Avenue over by Pope Francis, and his neighborhood got devastated by trees. And the difference in temperature, he told me today, or in the committee meeting, the temperature, the air temperature on my street is, I think he said, 8 degrees cooler than is on his street, just because the trees were preserved and his neighborhood got really hit by that. So it's kind of real numbers behind what we need to do. So Pat's on board, Alex is on board. Alex has been great to work with, and appreciate your advocacy for all this stuff. And I just wanted to point out one thing, Alex. I'm kind of a professor, and I just want to point out a spelling thing here. Oh, no, okay. And it's in the title. Ordinance needs another N. You're right. So I just want to point that out, because this is probably going to get passed around a little bit, and want you to know that. So I correct a lot of papers. Anyway, thanks for your work, and thanks for your time, everybody. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can you call for the vote on a... Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Davila.
Sure, before we, if I could have Madam Clerk read the amendment definition so that we can put into the record, and I believe we need to vote that amendment in.
Yes. Madam Clerk, could you read the amendment, please?
The entire amendment?
For definition of climate change, yes.
Climate.
And we will need a second for that, I believe, right?
Let me just open it up here. So the climate mitigation, which is the amendment, refers to actions limiting the magnitude and rate of future climate change by reducing greenhouse gas emissions and/or advancing nature-based solutions.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll on acceptance of the amendment?
Mr. President.
Councilor Davila?
Yeah, with all due respect, do we need to have a second and vote that amendment into the ordinance?
My apologies.
That's okay. Do we need a second and to vote this amendment into the ordinance? We're adding the amendment into the ordinance. We're adding the definition into the ordinance.
Second.
Yeah, correct. And then vote, yeah.
I believe Councilor
Perez just seconded.
Perez seconded the motion.
Okay, very well.
And so, any questions on the amendment? Hearing none, seeing none. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll on the adding of the amendment, on the amendment itself?
On acceptance of the amendment, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado. Yes, Counselor Click-Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran absent. Counselor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton absent. Counselor Whitfield absent. Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes. The amendment passes. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll on acceptance of the order, or passage of the ordinance itself?
On second and final steps of the order as amended, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click-Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran absent. Counselor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton absent. Counselor Whitfield absent. Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes. The vote is sufficient. The order is passed. Thank you, sir. The next item, number 5, Madam Clerk, could you read it?
The next item is item 5, an order amending Chapter 16, Boards and Commissions, Committees.
This item is sponsored by myself, Councilor Walsh, and President Fenton. President Fenton obviously is not present. He's dealing with some family issues, so our prayers go out to him and his family. But Councilor Walsh, could you speak on this item, please?
Yes, I think it'd be important to pass the first step, and if there are other questions, this is an idea that Councilor Fenton had, and it's particularly regarding the terms for CPA, so that when someone's term ends, they can be reappointed. It's really quite simple.
And this is for first step. Are there any
First
questions?
step.
No?
Second. It went last week.
It's already passed. Okay, I'm sorry. My apologies. Are there any other questions? Council Allen?
What would happen right now if we didn't have this? What happens when some,
The person whose term it is would have to leave
without a replacement?
without being reappointed.
Without being
So if-
reappointed.
So if it's somebody like Bob McCarroll, who's doing a heck of a job, and his term doesn't roll over, then you lose that expertise.
Okay.
Any other questions, comment? Councilor Davila?
If I could just sort of get the meat of the ordinance, just kind of a refresher, Councilor Walsh, or if basically the meat of the ordinance, 'cause I don't see it, I see it here, but I don't see the actual language. So if you could just refresh my memory before I vote.
Madam Clerk, do you have a copy of the?
I can share it with. I can share a copy with the councilors by email if that's okay.
Yeah, I guess. Or maybe Councilor Walsh, can you add something to the meat of the ordinance?
Don't think so.
Why not?
Councilor Walsh, would you like to
I
comment?
do have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't really
The
hear
echo
what you were
and the,
saying.
I know the echoes. I'm
acoustics-
just wondering if anybody can give me just a brief description of the ordinance, refresh my memory.
I mean, this is just specifically for CPA. So I think this could be brought up again when it comes up for the second step. Particularly, Councilor Fenton is not here to give his input.
Essentially, right, may I? Without objection. Councilor Davila, I believe that the intent is to maintain a position on the CPA board. As it stands right now, one of the members would have to resign because his term has expired. With the passage of this would roll him over and until just for the CPA board to maintain their presence on the board, and at the time of a new appointment, then people would be able to be reappointed or be replaced. But as of right now, his term is expired, and if he was to expire, they would be short.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilor Walsh.
Councilor Govan?
I think I heard that this is only going to be for the CPA Commission.
Yes.
And what is being taken out is the terms of office. So there will be no terms. It will just be ongoing.
The terms will expire. At the expiration of his term, or their terms, they will be either replaced, and if there is not a replacement in the pipeline, then they would
Stay on.
They would stay on.
I see. Okay.
So-
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would be thrilled to be voting in favor of this, but I do feel compelled to make the statement, sir, that it seems to me that we have this problem for a while where the boards and commissions are not properly filled. And so I'm glad that we are basically allowing them to stay as the CPA, but the administration has got to move and get this. So I think that with that being said, the boards and commissions are an important part of city government, and they need to be filled accordingly. And so I will be hosting myself a meeting of the general government to talk about the historical commission. We're having issues with that. And so my compliments to all involved in this, so to ensure that this important commission continues to function accordingly. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Any other questions or comments from the council? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll on passage?
On passage, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran. Absent, Councilor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton. Absent, Councilor Whitfield. Absent, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes, the vote is sufficient. The order passes. Madam Clerk, can you read item number 6?
Item 6 is an order approving a request for proposal solicitation by the City of Springfield Department for a contract of school transportation services for the term of 5 years.
Is there someone here who can speak on this item? Cap,
I can speak on the item. It's Patrick Roach from the school department.
Patrick, could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure, Patrick Roach, 658 Stony Hill.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. What we're requesting tonight is a 5-year contract for our transportation contracts. When you have such a large purchase of vehicles, in order to create competition, you need to do a 5-year contract, and so that businesses can amortize those costs over 5 years and they keep the cost down. And it allows us to get good competition. So we're asking for that tonight.
Any questions, comments from the council? Council Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. Thanks, Pat, for attending the meeting. What is the term of the current contract you're on?
5 years. For the past 20 years I've been here, they've all been 5-year contracts.
But each time it comes up as a 3, and then you ask for a 5.
By law, the council has to pass it as a 5, so we request it each time.
And could you just give us a little history? Has it been beneficial to go to 5, or what's the track record?
We never get competition. There's really not a lot of competition in Massachusetts, to be completely honest. But a company that comes in, buses are $500,000 to $800,000 a piece, and we have about 300 buses. So a company coming in having to buy all those buses has to amortize those costs over a certain number of years. So if you extend the contract to 5 years, you have a chance of a company coming in and trying to be competitive.
More of a chance of.
More of a chance, yes.
So who do you contract with now? Is it, I can't remember their name.
First Student?
First Student. So how long have we been with First Student?
As long as I've been here.
As long as you. So, and when does the current contract expire?
June 30th.
Of this year?
Of this year.
So if you went for 3 years, what would be the problem? What does 5 years solve that 3 years doesn't provide?
I mean, we work with consultants and in the industry, and this is what they tell us the best practice is.
They tell you what?
To do a 5-year contract.
Tell you.
If you'd like competition.
Okay. I'm all set, Mr. President.
Council Allen, Council Govan.
Thank you, Mr. President. So First Student, has there been any, I don't know how to say this delicately, audits on their work? Because I've been hearing a lot of parents kind of complain about the transportation system in the city of Springfield for the schools. Has there been a survey or something like that over the last, you said you've been there 20 years?
So First Student historically has done an excellent job for us. However, since the pandemic, they've struggled with drivers, like a lot of companies in Massachusetts. But we're using every bit of our current contract to hold their feet to the fire. We've actually been fining them every single month. It's been averaging about $150,000 a month in fines.
I see. And I don't know if this has anything to do with this contract, but what about bus monitors? Is that included in this contract?
But no, bus monitors are Springfield Public School employees.
I see. All right. So maybe that might have to be another conversation, because I've heard a lot that there aren't bus monitors. And another question is, are the buses generally full of students, or do you find that parents are just bringing their kids to school for the most part?
The buses are generally full. We tier our buses, which means, the same bus could do a high school run, then a middle school run, then an elementary school run. And so there's a chance that, the high school tier is the largest tier. So sometimes on a middle school run or an elementary school run, they may not be completely full.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Council Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pat, good evening to you, sir. So I just want to make sure that I understand you correctly. What you're asking this wise and humble body to do is to approve a 5-year contract because it's the best practice according to the industry experts, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and what is this contract worth for 5 years? Traditionally?
They're pretty significant contracts, and I think it's probably going to go up quite a bit in this next contract as well. You know, we have we bid it into separate pieces. We have a big bus, a mini bus. We do the vans separately because we're hoping to generate competition, and you know, breaking it up in pieces is the best way to do that. I mean, it's $25 million a year in contracts.
Okay, so are we gonna break it up into pieces this year, or is that something that you were doing before?
It's out in the RFP like that right now, and we're hoping we're trying to give the best opportunity to have multiple people bid on the contracts.
So this is a new approach? Breaking it up into
No,
pieces?
no, it's pretty much what we've done. You know, we made some tweaks to it. We did add some language that allows us to choose multiple bidders. So as Ms. Govan was saying, you know, like we've had some frustrations with some of the bus service this year. So one of the things that we're hoping to be able to do is actually, you know, have a core bus contract, but be able to hire some backup
Right.
companies if needed.
Correct, and that $25 million will be coming now out of the school line items, correct?
Yeah, the school transportation budget.
Okay, now my last question, Pat, is what kind of reporting do they do back to the city?
We have GPS data on when and where the buses are. We know when they get to school and when they leave. They can manually record how many students are on the bus. We have cameras on the buses.
Right. I believe that I'm gonna make the educated guess that all drivers are coverage check, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, my last question is, do we keep data on accidents? Do they report back to us on accidents?
Yes.
Okay. Can you, if you have that information available, can you provide us an overview of the accidents?
I don't know that information off the top of my head, but I'm happy to get it
Yeah.
for you.
Will you please, and the reason I asked Pat, because it has caught my personal attention, the amount of school buses accidents. Usually turned out to be fender bender, nothing major. But still, it did catch my attention. And so if there's an issue or if there's something that needs to be addressed, I think we need to do that now before one of those accidents do become a major incident in the city, and then we end up with a bigger problem in our hands. So I will appreciate if you could send me that information. Myself and to all councilors, by the way.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Dobley. Any other councilors have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I do.
Councilor Santinello, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Pat, what other cities and towns have 5-year contracts?
My understanding is that's what most of them do, although I haven't read all of their contracts.
So you don't
We've been
know.
working with TAS. It's a consulting company out of New York. They do this stuff for a living on a regular basis, and they've been the one helping us with our RFP this time.
Okay, but you can't can't give me a list now. You off the top of your head, you can't give me a list?
No.
Or some? How about Chicopee or Whole, anybody like that?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so we could be the first with a 5-year contract? There's other cities and towns that have this, but you just don't know which ones?
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other councilors, comment, question? Madam Clerk, could you call the roll on passage of the order?
On passage of the order, Counselor Walsh. Yes. Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran, absent. Counselor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton, absent. Counselor Whitfield, absent. Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes, the vote is sufficient. Order passes.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda.
Please call the item number 7. This requires 9 votes or majority of the council. Madam Clerk, please read item number 7.
Item 7 is amended order of taking of permanent and temporary easements for St. James Avenue and Tapley Street. The project is $170,000.
Anyone here to speak on this item?
Robert Suchuk, Associate Solicitor, 365 Tiffany Street, Springfield, Mass.
Thank you, Attorney Sushek.
Yep. So way back in June of 23, you guys approved an order of taking for this project. About 3 weeks ago, the assessors called me and they said I mistakenly listed two permanent easements as permanent partial takings, and they asked that I go in front of you guys and correct that so they can properly assess the properties. So I'm doing that right now. So I'm basically asking that the permanent easements that are listed in the old notice of taking are corrected to permanent easements. Thank you.
Any questions from the council? Councilor Allen?
Thanks, Mr. President. This was at the finance meeting at 5:30. There was uncertainty as to what the construction was going to be. Is it a roundabout or is it not? And I didn't know if anybody here could answer that, because I know there's a thing going around with a picture of what's the preferred alternative, which implies there's 2 alternatives. One is a roundabout. I don't know what the other one is, but I didn't know if Chris Signoli was on the call or anything. If somebody, I appreciate the Attorney Shuchuk's explanation on the financial side, but there's some people who don't really think the idea of a roundabout is great, and it's not our decision to make it or not, but would like to hear about it.
Attorney Shushek, are you prepared to answer the question that came up in the Finance Committee?
I can only look at the plans. I'm not qualified to.
Mr. President, I can answer that question.
Please, Lindsay, could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. Lindsay Hackett, Deputy CAFO, 80 Tamarack Drive in Springfield. So yes, Councilor Allen, we wanted to be able to answer your question. Director Signoli isn't at the meeting today. He actually didn't know it was going to be on, specifically just because, it was an error in the order that needed to be adjusted. However, it is a dual lane rotary, and that's what the picture you have there is.
It is a what, Lindsay?
Dual lane rotary.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any urgency to passing this tonight?
Well, this has nothing to do with the plans. This only has to do with so the assessors can properly assess the property. The order taking was already approved way back in June. I just had the correct description, 2 descriptions.
So we approved the land part of this whole thing in June.
Yeah, and I made a mistake, and there's just two word. Like I said, I mistakenly listed them as permanent takings versus permanent easements, and it messes with their assessment of the properties.
So if we approve this tonight, that's all set, but I'm just trying to determine how that's connected to the actual plan. And
Everything was already approved back in June of 23.
Everything's already.
And the construction's already going on.
I'm not trying to stop it. I'm just trying to have the DPW head who can explain this to us be here. And I'm sorry that he didn't know that it was on tonight. I just feel like there's people with different opinions. Even the thing that's going around says which is the preferred alternative, which implies that there's some uncertainty.
Well, I can't. Just for point of.
And I think all of you should know that Robert serves on the Traffic Commission, so he has expertise in this issue. It's just a matter of language. Isn't that what you said at the meeting?
Yes.
Yes, correct. It's just so the assessors can properly assess the properties.
Yeah.
If it's listed as a taking, then they assess the properties like the property was taken from them. But if it's an easement, it's not taken from them. So it's like Councilor Walsh said. It's just a correction of the terminology.
So it's a simple fix.
Yes,
It's a simple fix.
which is
and I
why
don't
Chris
think we should
wasn't
delay it.
notified of anything, of anything like that for today's meeting.
If
Did
I
you
may.
want to speak?
Well, I just want, just for the point of clarity, I believe the issue is an easement versus a taking. That's the only thing that's changed. It was listed as a taking when in fact it is just an easement. Is that correct, Attorney Shushak?
Yes, correct.
So this,
And it's only for 2 square feet, one of them, and like 1,000 square feet for another, so it's not,
so doesn't
doesn't
really
change really
impact
any.
whether we have a rotary, don't have a rotary. This is just to clarify the language regarding whether it's a taking or an easement for the purposes of the tax assessors.
Yes, correct.
So if we approve this tonight, will the description of this ever come before the council again?
No.
It has already come before you, Counselor Allen, but I'm happy to reach out to Chris tomorrow and we can write up a summary of what the project is. That slide that you're holding was actually from a public meeting with MassDOT that happened in April 2020. So that's what you're holding, and they were talking about, back then, they were talking about different scenarios for the upgrades to the intersection. But it's from a 2-year-old public meeting presentation. But I'm happy to have, Director Signoli put together a summary of the project for you, and we can get it sent over for you.
Yeah, this is basically a scrivener's error that I'm asking you guys to approve. My mistake of listing the takings as permanent, partial takings, and they're supposed to be permanent easements for two properties. No, there's nothing will change anything. Versus, the only thing that will change is the assessor will have to we'll have to go back to prove it again.
I'm just saying, so we can approve it tonight, and it wouldn't hold anything up, but we're not going to necessarily see it again in terms of the rotary idea coming before us at all.
Correct. It was already approved way back in June. But again, my description of 2 properties wasn't correct.
Okay. Did this ever come before maintenance and development? I'm not on that committee. I don't know.
No.
Yeah. I'm not trying to make a big deal of it, but I am trying to make a little deal of it that it's a major intersection in the city, and a couple people today said, I don't really like that plan of a rotary or of a roundabout. I'm sure Chris has it underhand. It just hasn't been communicated sufficiently to me.
Councilor Brown, followed by Councilor Govan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would have to concur with Councilor Allen. This is my area once again. I do have people in the Bay Area Neighborhood Council who have concerns. They do not want a rotary. I don't know if they want it. But they have few people who do have concerns. I know if we approved it and however it happened, I know at no point was the neighborhood council ever presented and asked for approval. And they're a very active neighborhood council. This is something that a lot of the members have been addressing over in that area. About what is actually going to be created over there. We have no idea. We don't know. They say it's going to be a roundabout. I know we have state money. Great. We said, go ahead, do a project over there. I believe that we should slow this down. There is no rush. I would let them have a chance to come to my committee. Make a motion to move it to maintenance development. Let me get some of the neighborhood council members there. Let me get some of the community there. And the worst thing that could happen is we can slow them down a little bit and figure out exactly what's going on. Because like my colleague said, if we just approve it right now today, boom, it's done. And then the next thing we know, when we wake up in the morning, we're gonna have something up there that the actual community had no say about. So I would like to slow this thing down.
It was already approved.
Well, as far as, I can put it in my committee, can I?
Motion has been made. Is there a second to the motion for it to go to
Second.
Mr. President, I've been having my hand raised up.
My apologies.
I just, thank you. So what we doing, the project was approved back in June. That's what I'm hearing, and what we doing is an addendum to the language.
Yes, there are two small sections that I accidentally labeled as permanent partial takings and permanent easements. Delaying, not approving this won't change the plans the plans are already approved. There's already going to be a rotary there. Like I said, the city council already approved the plan. You had the plans back in June and you approved them. But the only issue is my mistakenly mislabeling two small properties.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr.
Council Gobin was supposed to be next, and I'm gonna
Thank you, Mr.
recognize
Vice
Councilor
President.
Gobin.
Thank you. So it sounds like this came before the council before, and we approved the plans, which apparently was a rotary, and now we're going back saying, well, we never really wanted that. So if it's been approved, and I guess maybe Lindsay or the attorney can answer the question, if it's already been approved, what are the chances of it being, I guess, reverted to not it being a rotary?
0%.
Yeah, so it's
We only-
been
we
approved.
only
I
wanna
think.
This is
I
just
don't
for the
wanna-
assessor, so the assessor's can assess the.
I don't want to
the
waste any more time having to do this, right? Because today what is before us is the $170,000 to
The amount
do
doesn't, the amount's already been-
driveways,
Yeah.
to do sidewalks, it sounds like. So it's a done deal, and I think that we should not spend any more time on, I guess, debating that, because it's a done deal. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Davila.
I just want to make sure, are we talking about the apparent motion that was made, or are we talking about, let me explain my point of order, Mr. President. Let me explain my point of order. The echo, I got it, I understand. I understand. So the point, my point of order is the council cannot make a motion after speaking on the issue. So if we want to send this to committee, as I recall from the rules, a new councilor will have to make that motion. And, yeah, because I think that's, the motion was made.
Does everybody understand what he was just saying?
No.
Councilor Brown? Councilor Davila is suggesting that Councilor Brown, who was talking on the issue, then made the motion, and what he's saying is that we have to wait, or another councilor would have to make the motion.
Point of order.
I apologize, but I don't, Madam Clerk, can you give clarity as to that? I know this became a controversy and it was brought up, I believe, under Councilor Letterman and Councilor Fenton. Is Councilor Shea is Attorney Shea available?
Yes, my apologies. Councilor Brown is correct, yes. My apologies. Call the
Okay, everybody.
question.
Mr. President?
Yes, please, Ken Shea.
Yeah,
Attorney
so
Shea,
first off, I believe there's a motion on the floor. Hold it. And so that motion that was made, you'll have to vote on that. But as to the issue, all you're changing is the language from permanent to temporary on the easements. It has nothing to do with the project. The assessor's office needs the language changed, and that's all you're doing, is fixing the records for the assessor's office.
Yes, I think that's been, at least I understand that that is the case. I don't think all the counselors may understand it, but they still would like to hold up this portion, which is just what is before us. And now the question is before us. Councilor Brown put forth a motion to send this committee.
Right.
Councilor
Right.
Davila suggests that he, as the person who was talking on the issue, can't make the motion for it to go to committee. Is that correct?
I withdraw the point of order. Councilor Brown is correct. I was misspoke. It's when you call the question. So I withdraw my point of order. I withdraw my point of order, sir.
So just to encapsulate what both
Yes.
said, Councilor Brown is correct. He can make the motion even though he spoke on the item.
Yes.
It was
correct.
a motion by Councilor
I
Brown.
concur.
It was seconded by Councilor Allen, and right now we just need to take a vote on the motion. to committee.
Counselor,
Somos Golden Home Care Services.
On the motion,
on the motion.
Counselor Brown, now that you have heard they're only changing the language and that this has already been approved and that sending it to committee would have no effect, do you still want to go forward?
I understand how it actually works. I was just, as far as the people in my community, if I can give them an opportunity for the city of Springfield to at least say hello, hi, how are you? I would really like to do so. I know it's not, we agreed on it. That's not the issue. When it was agreed upon, it was never relayed to the community what was going on. They haven't talked to them. So if we can stop it just for a second, go over it a little bit and give them an opportunity. Let's review it. They have not spoken to the community. Let's give them a chance. How is it going to hurt if they're going to go and redo the whole area to just go and say, hey, you know, this is what we're doing. The Bay Area Neighborhood Council is sitting right there. They're very active. I wouldn't think it's that difficult for the city to just say, hey, you know, this is what we're going to do.
Mr. President, it doesn't sound like even if you had a committee meeting and it would actually change what's going on. I would like to suggest to you that you have a meeting where they can explain exactly what it is they're doing, but not hold up the assessments that we're being asked to do tonight. Yeah. I think it's important for the community to know what's going on, but don't get people's hopes up. If they have a meeting and they're objecting to the plan, there's nothing they can do about it. It's already been approved.
Counselor Brown.
I do understand what my colleague Counselor Walsh is saying, but you fooled me once. You know, I just basically I know they can have an opportunity to go and talk to the actual. I understand the ability that's in front of them. I just really, what's so hard about still doing it? I don't believe that they will do so.
Counselor Allen?
Thanks,
Or,
Mr.
I'm sorry. Yes. Would you, Counsel, have you spoken on the item, correct?
No.
I don't.
No?
I think I did, yeah.
Yes. Counselor Perez, please.
So, Councilor Brown, now what, you are gonna be doing an informational meeting, not a decision-making meeting, correct? Because that was passed in June, correct?
Yes, it was something that we did pass. What kind of discrepancy that kind of falls into place is that the city itself never did its due diligence to actually go and explain what was actually going there. Right now, it's like a boogeyman scenario over there. Everyone is nervous, and of course, I don't know too many people who watch city council meetings, unfortunately.
So my concern is that we took the responsibility of passing it. And I know that I like to bring information to the community. I just want to, for the purpose of the public and the community, to be clarified if this meeting that you are looking to have is more informational. Because what I understand from tonight, we only doing an addendum to, we passing an addendum to the language, not to the project itself. So I just want to just be clear on the matter. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor Perez. Counselor Allen.
Thanks, Counselor Perez. That was helpful. So I'm reading the article from 2 years ago, April of 2022, when there was a public hearing. Counselor Delgado found this, April 4th of 2022. So that's 2 years ago and 2 weeks from now. So it sounds like, Counselor Brown, that you need to inform your community about it. I think there's no doubt about that in my mind. Communities, it's been 2 years since this thing was approved. Construction was supposed to start in summer of 2023. That's what this article says. It didn't start in 2023. So now we're almost a year past that. So it seems to me, you know, even though I kind of started this, but I'm more clarified on the situation now, that maybe we should pass it tonight, pass this financial thing, and then reach out to, call a maintenance and development meeting. Are you the chair of maintenance and development? Call a maintenance and development meeting about this and have Chris come and explain it to people, but not hold up the process. It seems like that's an option for us.
Well,
Thank you.
are you raising your hand to withdraw?
I'd like to follow the lead. I concur with Councilor Allen. I do want to put it, and Councilor Walsh.
We all agree.
I will look later to, I take away my motion to send to committee. I withdraw it.
Thank you. Councilor Govan, do you still need to speak on the?
I just want to move the question.
I think if he withdraws, we may not need to have that motion made unless there's anybody else. Before you make that motion to move the committee, which requires another vote, are there any questions or comments from the council to this point so that I can move to the question? Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
I just want a clarification. We're voting on the amended order, correct?
On the amended language, yes.
Yes.
This is just on the amendment of the order, and then we will take the vote on the passage of the order itself. Is that the correct, Madam Clerk?
This vote will, once we take a vote on the amended language, it has already passed in the last year in the meeting,
Okay.
so this is just for the language.
Just requires one vote, and that is for the amendment itself.
Correct.
Are we all clear?
Yes.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the vote on passage of this order.
On approval of the amended order of taking, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran absent. Councilor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton absent. Councilor Whitfield absent. Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes. The vote is sufficient. The order passes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. I apologize for my mistake in June, which caused so much delay today. Again, I apologize.
Thank you, Attorney Shushek.
Thank you.
The next item is number 8, and I believe this is Councilor Brown. Everybody should have received a packet. Councilor Brown, would you like to speak on this item?
Thank you, Mr. President. Basically, this is something that we're lobbying for and looking to get support in the State House for Paint Steward program. It actually is in the House of Ways and Means now. We have 28 reps and 12 senators that are co-sponsored so far, and it is currently in the Ways and Means. And we're looking to get some momentum because this can actually change the dynamics when it comes to paint recycling and leftover unwanted paint. What it'll definitely do, it'll help with pollution, and it'll divert a lot of the pollution and the dumping. What I've been doing is I've been working with an individual who's well known. He's a chemical engineer, a primary care provider, and he's been spearheading it. We've been working for a while. He's pretty much an expert at the matter. And what this basically will do will change the dynamics of paint recycle and how we actually dispose of it. If I may, Mr. President, relinquish some of my time to Mr. Irwin.
Sir, would you like to, Mr. Irwin, would you like to state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Tom Irwin. My address is 54 Central Avenue in Dalton, Massachusetts.
Thank you, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you. As Councilor Brown mentioned, Paint Stewardship is a program that is involved in establishing a system where people can get rid of their unwanted paint by simply bringing it back to a participating retailer at no cost and dropping it off whenever that store is open, and without regard to where they purchased it or when they purchased it. The cost to consumers will be somewhere between 75 cents and $1 per gallon when they buy paint, but there are no other costs. This will present no costs at all to the paint retailers. This program has been working well in 11 states, including our neighboring states of Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maine, Vermont, and New York. And in 10 years that this program has been in the state of Connecticut, the fee per gallon has not changed by a penny. This program will provide a valuable opportunity to begin gaining some control of the solid waste problems that Springfield and all communities in Massachusetts face. Further, paint stewardship is the first step in implementing a comprehensive product stewardship program that will result in major reductions in solid waste, not only for Springfield, but for the entire state, and will include addition to paint, mattresses, packaging, solar panels, carpeting, etc. There are specific things within the waste stream that are amenable to this particular approach. And as a result, our collective interests are best served by starting this process now with paint stewardship, since it will take somewhere between 15 and 20 years to implement this entire thing. And this is the 7th time this legislation has been brought before the legislature. Fortunately, paint stewardship legislation that is already before our legislature enjoys broad support. Paint manufacturers and paint retailers, who along with consumer groups and state agencies developed this law, are certainly in favor of it. Our MMA is a supporter, as you'll note on your second page of your handout and highlighted. And on the third page of your handout is the Mass DEP's 2030 Solid Waste Master Plan, where product stewardship in general and paint stewardship in particular are called out as being essential. And that is part of their plan to have a 30% reduction in waste by 2030 and a 90% reduction by 2050. And how might that be possible without paint stewardship? I can't imagine it. As Councilor Brown mentioned, there are 28 state representatives and 12 senators sponsoring this legislation. 30 municipalities so far have already passed in resolutions or written letters of endorsement, and over 3,000 Massachusetts residents, primarily from the Western Massachusetts, have signed petitions in support of this legislation, including over 300, nearly 400 citizens of Springfield. And as Councilor Brown also mentioned, this bill is now before the House Ways and Means Committee. And one of the legislators in the House Ways and Means told me that if we were able to muster 40 resolutions by mid-April, that there serious consideration would be given to this particular matter in the Ways and Means Committee. And I think this is great news, but to not only have the bill seriously considered, but also viewed favorably, I think we should strive to exceed 40 resolutions with as many resolutions as time permits. And in summary, I believe paint stewardship does speak to the best interests of Springfield and is therefore worthy of Springfield's valued endorsement through passing the supportive resolution being considered tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments? Councilor Govan.
I have a question. Oh.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I think this is a great bill, and I think it would put us closer to getting to carbon neutral, I think by 2050. So this would be a good step forward in our climate action reduction plan. So I think this is a good idea. Thank you.
May I comment? In support of your point, by implementing this throughout the country, will reduce the amount of greenhouse gases generated by the paint industry by 4% by just simply recycling latex.
Good. Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? Councilor
Yeah. Mr. President?
Council Perez, hold on a second. I'll get to you next. And I also see Councilor Santinella, but Councilor Doppler first.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Dr. Irwin, and thank you for your presentation. I do have to say, sir, that as I was reading this, it definitely caught my eyes Let me tell you, I do have a question for you in a second, but allow me to tell you the one thing that definitely caught my eye is that besides the obvious good impact on the environment, it seems to me that the price of the paint can indeed decrease. I believe I read somewhere 50% of the original cost and 100% of oil-based paint. In other words, making the paint cheaper, which is a win-win situation for the consumer. Now, Dr. Irwin, my question to you, sir, is, it says here that this bill calls for 75 cents to $1 fee per gallon.
Yes.
Where does that money go to?
The American Coatings Association created this entity, a nonprofit called Paint Care. Paint Care is constructed to do the hauling and reprocessing of paint. They get the entire 75 cents to defray the costs of hauling and a portion of the reprocessing. And what I think you were suggesting is that if they get some money for the paint that they reprocess, that should go towards reducing the amount that consumers pay. And I think that effect is already built into that 75 cents.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, I go in with I got paint at home right now that I'm thinking about. I go in, I buy paint, I pay 75 cents to $1 per gallon. I use it, I bring it back. They're gonna ship it to a nonprofit, if I understood correctly, correct?
If you have a pre-existing paint in your basement, you'll pay nothing to bring it back. You'll only pay 75 cents when you buy fresh paint.
Right, so I buy today paint, I use it, a month later, I bring it back, whatever I have left over. Where are they sending that paint to be processed?
So what happens is that they collect the paint at the store in totes until they have roughly 200 gallons of paint. Then the paint is hauled to a reprocessing plant. There is one in Hanover, Massachusetts. They reblend it, bring it up back to like new condition, and then that paint is sold in stores like, what is it called? Restore?
So I will not be seeing that paint in the local Costco, Home Depot?
They are welcome to sell the paint. They typically don't because they want to sell their own, but they could indeed sell it there.
Okay, all right. So it seems like it's a little niche. Either way, it seems like there's going to be, the benefit is going to be to the environment, which I think is good. Okay, all right, thank you, Dr. Irwin. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Santinello.
Yeah, I want to commend Councilor Brown, and I want to commend the speaker for the hard work they're doing. Next month, I'm going to have a meeting on forever chemicals that are absolutely doing a number on our environment. And if we can, anything we can do to help the environment, take these toxic elements out of the environment, I'm all for it. So I want to applaud Councilor Brown for bringing this forward, and I plan on voting for this evening.
Thank you, Councilor Santinello. Councilor Perez, thank you for your patience.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that don't we do this as a community for the community every year of the collecting of the cans of paint, and we take it, and what role would that play into this new I'm looking to see into implementing this paint stewardship legislation? And I don't know who can answer from the group here, but I know there's a program like that we do, because I organize in the north end of Springfield to recollect the old cans of paint, and it's taken to the Department of Public Works. So how would that affect that program if it does? So I would like to hear more about it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes. Would you prefer him, or would you like your
Answer that. One clarification question, please, Councilor Perez. Are you referring to household hazardous waste days?
Yes.
Yes.
If you are indeed, then this program will lift the burden of household hazardous waste days from you. If you have a lot of paint and you wish the entity called Paint Care that does all the hauling and everything to hold a special event in your neighborhood to collect, I don't know, 500 or 600 gallons of paint, they will do so at no cost. This will free up RDP money that you have received from the state and be able to allocate it to other solid waste issues.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Perez. Any councilors in the chamber, any questions? Councilor Click Bruce.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to commend my colleague for bringing this forth, and I look to support this on tonight.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Brown?
Just before Dr. Irwin leaves, I just want the body to understand how hard this actual individual fights. I don't think people truly understands the work and the dedication that he puts in and the talks and the work. And I want to commend you for coming all the way up here and the work that you do. Thank you, Mr. President.
Brown, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none. Hearing none. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll on passage of the resolution?
On passage of the resolution, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran absent. Counselor Santinello. Counselor Santinello. Away, Counselor Fenton absent. Counselor Whitfield absent. Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes, the vote is sufficient. The resolution passes. Madam Clerk, could you read the next and final item of the night, which is item number 9? I believe that may be the reason for the presence of our 2 fine senators. Is there anyone in the chamber, any of the councilors? Sorry, Councilor Click Bruce.
All right, thank you, Chair. First and foremost, I want to thank State Senator John Vilas and Senator Gomez for being here and for your patience. I know you guys understand how this works, but I just want to extend my apologies on the tardiness, but we still have to do what we have to do. So we heard public testimony tonight by Minister Charles Stokes, so I want to put on the record as well. Very good points brought up, and for us to, I can agree with us being proactive. Lifelong resident here in the city of Springfield, grew up in Mason Square, so I know the intricates, what goes on in our community. Now, I haven't been exposed to everything. That's why it takes a team to come up with different solutions to make sure we're attacking this on different levels, because this is not just one issue. There's preventative, there's a street ministry, there's the prison, there's mental health. So there's so many factors that go into this gun violence. So I want to make that clear. I'm willing to work with anybody because this is not a LeVar problem. This is not a city of Springfield problem. This is a entire country problem. We're dealing with an uptick of gun violence. So we do need to come up with, again, programs, mental health, jobs. But you know, when I'm out and I'm just going to the local grocery store, I do hear from elderly saying that they don't feel safe in certain areas at certain times. So we're hearing those talks as well. And then they're asking the questions, you know, why is this person or that person? And we're talking about violent offenders. I'm not talking about somebody who's got caught with some weed. I'm talking about someone who has a gun charge and firing off and then going to the judge and then being let out the next day. That's what I'm talking about. Violent offenders, not the typical, you know, pullover for traffic incidents. So I was looking to support, and this was a reaction to the incident that happened at SciTech. I actually reached out to John Vilas' office about a month ago about this, and I kind of sat on it a little while because I wanted to do my due diligence and see what was actually going on. So to Minister Stokes' point, also reiterate, again, it's all about us being proactive and making sure summer is approaching. So we have to come up with some unique ideas. Councilor Allen told me about some things they worked on previously. I'm willing to listen to see what we can bring forth to the city council. So with that being said, we do have two guests here, but I do want to bring up what the resolution reads in reference to, this is what I'm proposing to the city council to help adopt, so that way we can help our city of Springfield. So repeat firearm violent offenders, whereas the Springfield City Council, like many other cities across the country, are confronted with senseless gun violence, and whereas working together, a comprehensive solution can be reached that will reduce gun violence. Now therefore be it resolved that the Springfield City Council endorses and supports State Senators John Vilas and State Senator Adam Gomez's repeat firearm violent offender legislation, and I urge all communities across the Commonwealth to endorse. So at this time, I'll yield the floor to the lead sponsor on this, which is John Vilas, and also so Senator Vilas and also Senator Gomez at this time.
Senators, please. Welcome to the chamber once again. And thank you very much for your patience and for your due diligence. Councilor Gomez, you're familiar with our process.
Thank you, Mr. President. I told Senator Vilas, this is a light time. We've been here since 12 o'clock before legislating. So, one, I want to thank Councilor Click Bruce and all the rest of the body for allowing us to come and speak a little bit outside of this amendment. Since we're talking about the amendment, I think it's appropriate for me to speak a little bit on the piece of policy that we're actually talking about outside of the amendment, to give you kind of a context of obviously individuals that came from the public that spoke on it, and then also just to give you a little bit of context from the Senate version. I cannot speak on the House version. And obviously, it's called the SAFER Act. It's an act to sensibly address firearm violence through effective reform. And we know that Massachusetts already is one of the lowest rates of gun violence in the nation, but it doesn't feel like that in the districts that myself and also Senator Vilas represent. Senate Bill S-2572 is an act, again, the SAFER Act. It builds on the strong foundation and updates state laws to reflect new technologies and trends, and makes the Commonwealth's residents even safer without infringing on the rights of the lawful gun owner. Ghost guns. The term ghost guns refers to privately made firearms that are not marked with appropriate serial number and are thus hidden from oversight and accountability. By making changes to our state's definition of a firearm, it is better aligned with federal standards, and by ensuring the accountability for those who hold the essential components to assemble a gun. This bill will make Massachusetts a leader in this efforts to crack down on illegal gun possessions. This bill aligns the state's definition of a firearm with that of the federal definition of a firearm. Currently, the state's definition of a firearm only applies to a fully assembled weapon that is capable of discharging a bullet. This means that if an individual without a license to carry has all the components to develop 10 different guns, if those components are not fully assembled into a gun, that individual is considered of zero guns under state law. This bill makes it clear that if someone is prohibited from possessing a fully assembled firearm, they should also be prohibited from possessing the essential components from such a weapon. This change is especially important in an age when privately made ghost guns are becoming more common. These ghost guns can be made using ready-to-build gun kits or 3D printers gun parts, and because they are not marked with a serial number, ghost guns are impossible to trace back to the individual purchased when they are found at a crime scene. To address that, the bill would prohibit a 3D 3D printing of weapons unless the person owns a license to manufacture firearms and require any kit assembled guns by a licensed gun owner to be registered. Glock switches and trigger activators, which are pieces that turn a regular gun into a semi-automatic. This bill makes a notable change to ban the ownership of devices that are specifically designed to make semi-automatic weapons more fatal. This device goes by a variety of names, include Glock switches, selector switches, and auto sears. But their goal is the same: to make a gun more dangerous by shooting more rapidly. This bill updates the state law to ensure that ownership of these devices is prohibited in the Commonwealth. These devices are frequently being used in mass shootings across the state, such as the shooting at the Boston Caribbean Festival last August that left 8 people injured. And we know that we've lost a lot of our community members over the years to these ghost guns and Glock switches. The red flag law and extreme risk protection orders. The bill enhances the state's red flag law, which allows a court to order an individual to surrender their license to carry firearms along with any firearms they possess when an individual poses a risk of physical harming themselves or others. First, the bill allows a health care provider to file a petition for an extreme risk protection order related to the patient and that they have provided health care services to within the previous 6 months. Currently, only family members and police officers are able to file the petition for the ERPO. Second, the bill also makes the change by preemptively banning an individual subject to the ERPO from obtaining a license to carry for the duration of the order. Under current law, an individual may only be subject to the ERPO if they already possess the license to carry. Harassment prevention orders. This bill protects survivors of abuse and sexual harassment by preventing individuals who are subject to harassment prevention orders from holding dangerous weapons. Currently, state law does not permit a court to order an individual to surrender their firearms if they are subject to a harassment prevention order. This stands in contrast to the state law surrounding abuse prevention orders, which explicitly permits a court to order the surrender of firearms. This gap in state law puts survivors of abuse and harassment at risk by allowing individuals who are subject to the harassment prevention orders to continue to hold on to their weapons. This bill rectifies that problem by ensuring that in an instance when an individual subject to the harassment protection order demonstrates a substantial likelihood of immediate danger of harassment, and the court must order that individual to surrender their firearms. Under the current law, local licensing authorities are required to annually inspect gun dealers that they have licenses. There have been instances in the past when those inspections have not occurred. However, this bill directs the Secretary of Public Safety and Security to provide information to the local law enforcement agencies on how the conduct of those inspections and to ensure that they are conducted on an annual basis. And if a gun dealer is not inspected within the annual time frame, the bill directs the state police to conduct the investigation. Gun violence prevention. This bill makes a number of changes to support gun violence prevention, with a focus on communities that have disproportionately been affected by gun violence. First, the bill will create a commission to study sources of gun violence prevention funding in Massachusetts and to recommend improvements to reduce the disproportionate impacts of gun violence in communities of color. Second, the bill talking about gun violence isn't easy for me, I apologize. Second, the bill directs the Department of Public Health and develop a pilot program to promote gun safety awareness and firearms licensing education. Third, the bill establishes a task force to review the available source of federal funding for the Community Violence and Prevention and programs, and to make recommendations for the maximizing federal funding in the most equitable way. Assault rifles in Massachusetts already have a place in assault weapons ban. The state law related to the ban is outdated. However, referring to the ban, a federal law that has since been repealed, this bill will modernize state law by codifying the assault weapons ban as it is currently being interpreted by the Attorney General to ensure that our residents are kept safe from these weapons of war. Now, lastly, the gun industry, which we know in Springfield and in Western Massachusetts, when it comes to accountability in advertising. This bill prohibits the marketing of unlawful firearm sales to minors and allows the industry and actors to be held civilly liable if such marketing practices lead to individuals being harmed. Current gun industry actors are granted near absolute immunity from civil litigation, making them one of the only industries to make such widespread liability protections. This bill will prohibit the gun industry from marketing unlawful firearm sales to minors and allow individuals harmed as a result of such unlawful advertisement instigate a civil action. Another piece of the legislation that myself and Senator Vilas were able to obtain and amend is obviously we know that individuals that are under the age practice professionally with sharpshooting, let it be hunting with their parents, and also Boy Scouts. So those kind of activities were amended so those organizations and the gun manufacturers aren't held liable under those practices. Firing in a dwelling. Currently, there is no specific criminal charges for firing a weapon directly at a dwelling or a building to use, basically quote-unquote drive-bys. The bill creates a criminal charge for such a violation, making clear that firing a weapon at a dwelling or other building in use with the intent of hitting the building is a serious criminal offense. Sensitive places in this bill codifies measures that prohibit the carrying of a firearm in a courthouse, in a state and a municipal administrative building. This bill, however, carves out the police officers from the prohibition while also granting individuals, communities, the ability to opt out and to choose how to allow licensed gun owners to carry in their own municipal government buildings. Mental health, big. The bill also makes changes to ensure that law enforcement agencies that issue licenses to carry firearms have the most up-to-date information related to the temporary involuntary mental health hospitalizations, specifically that the bill requires a law enforcement agency that is involved in the temporary involuntary hospitalization of an individual with mental health condition to submit information related to the incident to the Department of Criminal Justice Information Services, which maintains an inventory of information relative of the firearms licensing process. The bill maintains strong protections to protect privacy, preventing the sharing of clinical information, and ensuring any information shared is used solely for the firearms licensing and sales process. And then there's a bunch of more to this bill that I absolutely am going to share with the City Council specific to the Senate version, but also just to say that, you know, now I'm going to let my colleagues speak a little bit more into the amendment, and after that, we can take any questions.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Senator Gomez. Senator Vilas, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. President. Thank you very much, and through you to the members. It's an absolute honor to be here in this beautiful chamber. And no need to apologize. Both myself and my colleague are definitely used to watching robust debate going on, so no need to apologize. And the first thing that I would say, Mr. President, and the members, is that, you know, it's already been said by the counselor as well as Minister Stokes here, is that this amendment that I'm going to speak to very shortly certainly isn't a panacea. I mean, the overwhelming consensus is that there needs to be a multi-pronged approach to this, and something that's already been referenced is prevention. You know, we spend a lot of time and energy in this space talking about penalties and talking about, you know, restrictions on the Second Amendment and what that looks like. But I think it's really important that if we're going to have an honest dialogue about firearm violence, we need to talk about prevention, and it needs to start at a much younger age. We need to get kids, because that's what we're talking about, at that proverbial fork in the road and get them to go this way as opposed to this way. So again, I bring that up just to say that this is a part of this discussion. It most certainly is not a panacea. So, have some prepared remarks that I'm going to read. Good evening, counselors. I'd like to first begin by sharing my gratitude to Counselor Click Bruce for sponsoring this evening's resolution in support of my amendment included in the Senate's gun bill, as well as Senator Gomez for joining me today in your robust support when we did this. The genesis for this amendment was pretty simple. If you're going to have an honest conversation about gun violence, not only in Massachusetts, not only in my district, but in the nation at large, you need to accept what the data says. And what the data tells us is that the overwhelming majority of gun violence in America today is perpetrated by individuals who do not have a legal license to carry a firearm. That is factual. As many of you know, this past February, I'm going to be brief because my colleague just did a great job explaining the underlying bill. And by way of background, I just want to kind of lay the foundation. What Senator Gomez just spoke to was the underlying gun bill that was passed. What I'm now speaking to is an amendment, Amendment number 6, the Repeat Violent Offender Amendment. So, as many of you know, this past February, the Massachusetts State Senate passed a firearm bill known as the SAFER Act, which includes an amendment that I was proud to file, which created a legal mechanism to address repeat firearm violent offenders. Currently, the fate of this amendment rests with the 6 members of the House-Senate Conference Committee that is negotiating a final compromise bill. This amendment, which was adopted with bipartisan support by senators, focuses directly on individuals without a license to carry who have been charged with a gun or a violent offense. And I think it's really important, and I'm going to say that over and over again, have been charged with a gun or a violent offense. It is very purposely narrowly tailored to capture just that type of criminal behavior. Often what happens is an individual is released following a hearing, and then they subsequently violate a condition of that release by committing yet another gun crime or violent offense. Repeat offenders often get released back into the community despite their continued disregard for the conditions of their release and our laws. This amendment would ensure that an individual who was arrested and charged, then released, who was determined by clear and convincing evidence at a judicial hearing, that is also critical, clear and convincing evidence, the highest judicial standard at a judicial hearing, to have violated a condition of that release will be deemed a danger to the safety of the community and be detained until trial. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this story, as well as many others. And this, I'm going to focus on something first that happened in my district in Holyoke. Absolutely heartbreaking shooting over in Holyoke this fall, where a stray billet hit a completely innocent pregnant woman on a bus as 3 individuals were embroiled in a firefight in broad daylight at 12 noon. At 12 noon. The woman was rushed to the hospital where her newborn baby, 8 months old, was delivered, but tragically did not survive. One of these individuals involved had been arrested a week prior on unrelated firearms charges and had been let out on bail to walk the streets of Holyoke. I find that morally unconscionable. None of these individuals in this instant were lawful gun owners. Again, this amendment is focusing on folks who do not possess a legal right to carry a firearm, a distinction that you will hear me say over and over again. An additional impetus for this, and now I'm going to venture outside my district because it involves a friend of mine who works on the job here in town, here in Springfield rather, remember talking to a friend of mine, and as I was talking to him, again, he's a Springfield police officer, and he was driving the streets of Agawam in my district in search of an extremely violent individual who was suspected of an August murder here in Springfield. The next morning, when I began reading the Republican newspaper, Mass Live, I learned more about the specific individual and his demonstrable propensity for violence. This was someone who previously was convicted on gun charges. It was out on bail for not one, not two, but 3 separate open gun charges. Let that sink in for a second. Not one, not two, but 3 separate gun charges. When he was arrested and charged with first-degree murder this past January. I read a stat that of the, I believe, 31 homicides, murders in Springfield this year, 40% of the suspects had an open illegal firearm case at the time of the murder. Let that one sink in. We know with absolute certainty that most gun violence in Massachusetts and beyond is committed, again, by individuals without a legal license to have a gun, who have a known demonstrable propensity for violence. This amendment would finally create consequences for those charged with an unlawful gun offense and who subsequently violate the conditions of that release by committing yet another unlawful gun crime. Just a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, Connecticut, a member of the Connecticut National Guard, a woman, and her 11-year-old daughter were murdered in Worcester while sitting in their car. One of the suspects charged with the murders, violent history, and is involved with 3 separate ongoing court cases, one of them which includes an alleged firearm. If we keep allowing repeat firearms offenders that have no regard for the conditions of their release, our gun laws, human life, like the one in Holyoke, Worcester, here in Springfield, back on the streets, then we are going to continue to see lives lost by senseless violence and families forever devastated by what should have been preventable. As we were having this debate, that same friend who I referenced earlier on the job here in Springfield sent me a video from a shooting here in the community. And what was devastating when I saw it was a couple of football fields away from a school here in the community. A school right around 3 o'clock when students would be dismissed. At some point in time, as Senator Gomez and I will frequently say, we've got a lot of conversations about criminal justice reform, things of that nature. And both of us, we've had this conversation. Believe in second chances. Believe in forgiveness. Believe in moving on. Believe that there's more to this discussion than just this amendment. But come on, when is enough enough? At what point in time do we say to the community, the young mother watching her young kid to school, that enough is enough? This amendment creates a powerful tool to combat the gun violence in our communities that is being perpetrated by offenders who are released over and over and over again. As negotiations on a final compromise bill continue in the state legislature, adopting this resolution, I am of the opinion, will send a strong message of support for the amendment itself and for the families in our region who live in daily fear of the gun violence happening right outside their front door or across the street from their child's school. I greatly appreciate you inviting me in here to have a conversation tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Councilor Delgado. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Clerk Bruce.
Thank you, Senator Velez and Senator Gomez. Before I yield the floor, I just want to say thank you. Thank you both for stepping up and presenting this. And again, I just want to make it clear, this was something that I reached out to Senator Velez's office maybe a month ago. And so it wasn't a reaction to the SciTech shooting, but it was more of, no, we need to do something now. but this is something that I was preparing to bring forth. But I will say that sci-tech shooting really touched something for me to really move forward with this. I will say that. Because anytime our young people are in danger, which is every day, but when you talk about going to schools in my hometown, I have a problem, and I think that's all of our problems. And our kids are going to school. You send your kid out in the morning, you expect them to come home safely. And I'm going to add this. I don't want to harp on it too much. It's just no street code anymore. I grew up, and there were some things that are off limits, and schools was one of those things. You just don't go with a gun shooting at a school. So this needs to stop. And I'm urging, again, city councilors to support this great bill that our senators brought forth. And again, I want to make clear, this is not the only solution. There are multiple solutions that we all need to work together to make our city of Springfield safe. We all love to live here. And again, I'm here to listen, and not only listen, to implement, because we have to stop talking and really get into this action and make our city safe. Thank you again.
Thank you, Councilor Bruce. Councilor Delgado.
Thank you, Chair. Or Mr. President, I should say. First of all, I just want to commend my colleague, Councilor Click Bruce, for his leadership, particularly serving on the Public Safety Committee. I think we have the right person doing the right job, and the fact that he has been proactive in this. So I intend to vote in favor of this resolution. Thank you, seriously, for your leadership, because to his point, there's a lot of talking, and sometimes we get distracted by other issues in the city that really don't need the amount of attention that they get sometimes, but this is one incident. We coming off of a year of 31 murders, and I'm somebody whose family has been impacted by gun violence, right? So this hits home for me. I'm also a father of children in the school system. My wife is an educator, right? So the sci-tech thing, I'm thank God that nobody was hurt, but we really need to continue to have these conversations. And so thank you to our senators. Welcome to Springfield, Senator Vilas. I know you're not a stranger to Springfield. And obviously to Senator Gomez, who happens to be my senator, thank you for your leadership at the state level in trying to push this forward, because we need to continue to be proactive. We need to continue. There's so much things going on. I mean, I'm here searching on the internet, just even the piece on ghost guns and the impact that's having. So I'm going to vote in favor of this resolution. I urge my colleagues to do the same. So thank you.
Councilor Govan, followed by Councilor Brown, followed by Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. And I also want to commend Councilor Click Bruce for bringing this forward, and the senators for coming and basically explaining the bill to us. I don't agree with the administration a lot of the times, but the one thing I do agree on is allowing these violent repeat offenders back out on bail. And I'm glad that we're talking about prevention and being proactive, like Mr. Stokes said. I think this bill is a great start, and we need to continue the conversation. I think about the times when I have clients that are locked up in Ludlow or in Chicopee even, and if they are not sentenced, from my understanding, and I'm not sure if this has changed over the years, but if they're not sentenced, they don't receive any treatment. They don't receive any services at all. And sometimes they're in there for a year, 6 months, and they're not receiving any services, So I'm hoping that we can all have a conversation, including the Sheriff's Department, including mental health agencies, including people like Mr. Stokes mentioned, that will help us to be proactive in this piece. This is an excellent piece of legislation that I'm certainly going to support tonight, because it addresses a problem that we have. When I see the news, where a person who shot up a school in our city just got released on a gun charge. That hurts me, you know what I mean? Because that person, like you said, Senator Villas, has no respect for life. They have no respect for our community, and, you know, we do not need them to be out in the streets causing harm. So I'm certainly in support of this legislation, and I will thank you all for writing it and for bringing it forward. And I urge all of us to pass this legislation tonight. Thank you. The
Thank you,
resolution I
Councilor
made.
Govan. Councilor Brown, followed by Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to thank my colleague, Councilor Click Bruce. Always very, very proactive, and when it comes to addressing issues. I also want to thank the senators for the work that they've done. I've worked with Senator Villas for a very long time, being the Chief of Staff to State Representative Bud Williams. He's very passionate in addressing this on the House end. So we do collaborate with these things. I also want to emphasize, like my colleague said, there are other bills out there that do address other things. I know the rep has one that's in the House, HD 615, that is addressing mandatory minimum sentencing related for drug offenses. So, you know, we do balance it out. We just don't want to lock just anyone up, like my colleague, Councilor Click Bruce said. I also want to give kudos to my colleague, Senator Villas. I don't think people truly understand his passion and who this individual truly is. He is a true hero. He serves his country. I don't know if people know, he just got back from, where was it? You were out in Kenya. So he was just out in Kenya. He's always actively, so he's not just someone out there, he actually does protect and serve. And I commend him. He's been doing it for a very, very, very long time. When we think about gun violence, I can count on more than one hand and my toes how many family members and friends that came to gun violence. I started a nonprofit, was a co-founder of a nonprofit to address some of it. It's still really not enough. I know Eric and Brandon Daniels, Ty, I had a cousin who was murdered just sitting in the car. I mean, I can go over and over and over and over again how many people that I know came to actual gun violence, and it's a shame. So I do commend that my colleagues are putting these things forward, and I do want to make sure people understand the original invention of penitentiary came from a religious group dealing with penance. So the word penitentiary comes from penance. And what would happen is individuals would have the opportunity when they messed up in order to go to a facility and be rehabilitated, do their penance, and then now be able to be a productive part of society. So it is important to have other programs in place to make sure that this transaction happens. But like my colleague Senator Villas stated, you know, it is kind of enough is enough. We do have to address this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to begin my comments by echoing Councilor Billy's statement. I believe he said a little while ago, we need to listen to the data. And I couldn't agree more with you, Senator. The data in Springfield says that we have, on average, 17 murders here in your great city. The data says last year we broke the record, and we had 32 murders. That's not counting the amount of countless shootings that go unreported, that people either don't report it or they go to the emergency room seeking care. The data also says that most of the shootings here in the city of Springfield are due to first, drug activity. Second, domestic violence. So Senator Villas, I fully agree with you. The data the numbers lead the way. I do think that this is a good tool to address this epidemic, but we need to ever continue to make it better to address the root causes of this. And we all know they have similar trends: lack of jobs, lack of employment, lack of education, lack of opportunity, oppression. There's people out there, however, that do enjoy the criminal activity. Personally, those people who enjoy it, lock them up, melt the key and throw it away. Personally. Those people that truly enjoy that criminal activity. And we do have a few of those in Springfield here. So I will be pleased to vote for this. My compliments to both you, Senator Bailey's and Senator Gomez. Thank you for bringing this to the forefront. And again, let us hope that this year in the city of Springfield, we don't break the record of 32 murders, because we have got to get a handle of this. Otherwise, we are literally going to be paying in blood. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Perez.
Yes, I just want to say, when I gotta thank Senator Villas and Senator Adam Gomez, but because when you see the state that comes in front of us as a city councilor for an important message and decision-making tonight, it makes me feel that we have hope, that the state, from the state perspective, from the city perspective, everyone is on the same page. How are we gonna get to that pathway? So tonight is one of the answers, by getting together and doing better for our community. There's so many cause roots in the community, but this one had hit the roof, and we have to acknowledge from all legislation perspectives. So thank you again for this presentation of tonight. And I hope the community, and I hope that we could have more of this public message in Spanish as well, so our community understand that we are working in collaboration. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Perez. Councilor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. Thanks, guys, for coming and sharing the time and your time and expertise on this topic. We're well aware of the issue of gun violence in Springfield, unfortunately, and I look forward to working with you on it, and hopefully making some progress. We've been trying for a long time, and maybe if we work together between the Senate and here and the local people here, we can have a better shot at it. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Councilor Gomez, Senator Gomez?
Either one is fine with me. I just want to thank all of you guys for your words of encouragement. Every single counselor has some great reasons why to support Councilor Click Bruce's resolution. It's no secret that Springfield and the region around feels like we live in another planet compared to a lot of the other communities that live around us. But if we don't get and tackle this issue, the dreams and hopes and renaissance and economic renaissance and things that we so legislate want to happen here for the city of Springfield are at risk. So with that, I just want to say that talking about this piece of legislation, the reason why that is important to me, and the reasons that Councilor Click Bruce brought up, is that I graduated from the High Schools of Science and Technology. So that hits home every single day. But also, it's no secret that I lost my best friend, Jafet Robles, and that crime has gone unsolved. Not necessarily in Springfield, but that impact is serious. And lastly, the last person in residence of the city of Springfield that lost his life that was a community member was Guyton Winspear. And I want to give a big heartfelt condolences to his family and those 31 other families that that lost a loved one last year, and then the hundreds of other ones in the past years to come. So thank you for the opportunity. God bless, and I will see you guys soon.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to briefly say that my family is not immune to gun violence. And so if you are fortunate to be in this chamber or listening and you do not and have not ever felt the effects of gun violence in your family's lives, I applaud you. That being said, thank you, counselors, all for your comments. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll on passage in support of this resolution? Councilor Brown?
As far as being added, do we do that? As far as being added, I'd like to be added to the resolution. Do we do that now, or do we wait until the actual procedure? How does that work? Do we do it?
Any counselor that wishes to be added can just let me know, and I will do so.
I'd like to be added.
Can you just simply, I assume all counselors are in support, just add all counselors, please? Is that sound appropriate?
Without objection.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, at your leisure, please call the roll.
Counselor Walsh? On passage? Yes, Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran, absent. Counselor Santinello? Away, Counselor Fenton, absent. Counselor Whitfield, absent. Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes.
The vote is sufficient. The motion passes. Councilor Brown?
In regards to being members added to the actual paint stewarded, is that the same if people wanted to be added?
Yes. Anyone who wishes to be added, just let the clerk know. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Councilor Davila?
No, to be added.
Oh, okay. No other business I've properly brought before the council, but I'd just like to take this moment to thank all of you here and in the chamber and at home. I've had the pleasure and honor to serve on the council for 16 years, and this is the first time I've chaired a committee of the whole. So I thank you very much for this opportunity. Let me assure you, this has been a real honor and pleasure, and my nerves a little nervous tonight. But thank you, everyone. I'd like to adjourn the meeting of the Springfield City Council